So now, the definition given by Patanjali himself in the beginning of the Yoga Sutras is Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha, which means yoga is the nirodha of the vrittis of the chitta. I'll explain. Which means that yoga, the word yoga means, first let's understand the word chitta and vritti. Vritti, the word means the waves or the modifications or thought movements of thought, mostly distractions that happen in the chitta meaning the mind. In fact, the mind is made up of these vrittis. You cannot conceive of a mind without thought. We can't think of a mind without thought. So the very word mind means vrittis, which meaning the movement of thought, the vibrations of thought, the waves of thought. You may call it what you want, but it's the movement. And Nirodha, meaning bringing an end to the distraction, to the distracting mode of the mind waves. And it's a free translation. Bringing an end to the distracting waves of the mind stuff. Let's put it this way. That is the aim of yoga. Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Now what happens? Is that the end of yoga? That's the beginning of yoga. Because when the mind, how we are mostly, you and I, all of us, we are most times distracted. We may be studying something, but our mind is wandering something else. If we are sitting here, our mind might go somewhere else. So there is always this distraction, That's because we have not learned how to settle the mind. When the mind is settled, there are no distractions. It's at peace with itself first. If it's at peace with itself, then it is at peace with the world outside. But our lives are generally, so dependent on external factors, which is okay. It's a fact. And reactions from others. Like if somebody says that I am a wonderful man, then I am on cloud 9. Okay? And if somebody says this fellow is a bloody idiot, and then I am down in the dumps. This is our life. We live by what others think about us, what others say about us. We have no clear-cut idea of what we actually are. We are built by opinions of others, and therefore the mind goes up and down. It's quite natural. Sometimes you are angry, sometimes you are calm. So what happens with this is that the mind is distracted. And because it is distracted, it dissipates energy. It's always in conflict. So the whole aim of yoga is to bring the movement of thought to a kind of quiet flow which is peaceful. At least that much. We're not aiming at making the mind unconscious. That you don't have to work hard. You just need a crowbar, 2 minutes. On the head, one shot, and we are unconscious. So when people, I want to become thoughtless, I said, I don't teach that. I don't know. If you want to be thoughtless, then you're unconscious. You have to make your mind quiet and calm and special. That's what we're trying to do. And then afterwards, maybe it dissolves by itself. You can't do it. So, this is the aim of yoga. So, what happens then if this happens? We believe that this calming down of the mind, reducing the conflicts and reducing the dissipation of energy makes you more alive in the inner sense of the term. But alive need not be equated with agitation. It's calm, quiet, tranquil balance of mind. Now this is the tarmac from where you can take off to the higher levels of consciousness. This is essential to start with. This is not the end, but it is essential. From there you take off. Takeoff, we'll discuss takeoff later, but you need it. The runway is this Chitta Vritti Nirodha, and then you go up. Okay. So, what are the essentials to go about doing this, which Patanjali has defined in the Ashtanga Yoga Sutras? But you must also remember that yoga is not always only the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Keep this in mind. We are studying it because it is a systematic way of doing, that's it. But it's not entirely, yoga doesn't mean only the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. I am using it here to show you that it's a systematic ancient mode which has been taught so that the mind can be calmed down. There are other ways of yoga. For instance, we have this wonderful book, scripture in India called the Bhagavad Gita. The song of the Lord, the Bhagavad Gita. Now, the Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters. 18 chapters, like 18 holes in a golf links. You don't need the 19th watering hole here, but 18 holes. So, this 18 chapters also are called yoga. Each chapter is called a yoga. It starts with Arjuna Vishada Yoga and goes on to Sankhya, Karma Yoga. So at the end of each chapter of the Gita itself says that it is a practice of yoga. So therefore yoga means any attempt to make your mind quiet and move to something beyond your ordinary limitations can be called yoga. So there is Bhakti Marga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga. These are all different expressions used for different modes of moving to that point depending on the person. A person is very devotional. It's futile to go and tell him, sit down every day and breathe in and out. I mean, he'll say, what for? I have. Or you go to somebody who's a yogi and say, oh, you have to develop devotion. You say, well, I'm doing my yoga, I'm okay. Don't make me emotionally dependent on something. So, depending on the person, depending on the different, roughly characterized into different kinds of characters, yoga has changed a little bit here and there. But basically yoga is how, it is also derived from the word yuj, which means to come together, to merge. Merge your ordinary little limited identity with that which is universal. This is yoga. So, the Gita at the end of each chapter says, this is the Gita iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So, Upanishad, so this is the teaching of the Upanishad. Brahma Vidyayam is the knowledge of the Supreme Being, Yoga Shastri. So, it's a Yoga Shastri. So, all these are different approaches, but we are discussing Yoga Sutras of Patanjali because, as I said, it's quite systematic. Step by step, especially for the modern generation who don't want to say, oh, devotion, hey, crap. I don't believe in a God. What do you do? Especially after Richard Dawkins wrote God Delusion, it's not fashionable even to use the word God nowadays. Well, it doesn't matter. So, we are dealing with the mind and consciousness, not with anything else at the moment. So, what are these 8 steps of Ashtanga Yoga? First, it starts with Yama Niyama, which means certain rules and regulations to be followed before one goes forward. You need that. We were discussing mindfulness the other day in Melbourne, in the Theosophical Society. I said there are 2 kinds of mindfulness. One is inner mindfulness, the other is outer mindfulness, which means how we live in this world. So, Yama Niyamas are rules and regulations which we need to look into carefully to be mindful of our actions in this world in which we live. Important. If you don't do that, you cannot do this. And if you do this, you will be able to do that better. They are interconnected. Entire day we are distracted. We do things which we really don't love to do. many of us, may not be everybody. And we are so distracted, we want to think of something, we're thinking of something else. And then we hope to sit down in the evening for 1 hour and remain completely one-pointed. It's not possible. Because the mind falls into a habit which it creates, into the pattern which it creates. So if you can do your work in this world and your relationship with this world, which means human beings, if you can change that in some way, then it's also possible to sit down and meditate. You can't say, I will meditate and then rest of the time I'll spend in the bar. This is not possible. Sometimes people are so dependent. What can you do? I went to a marriage in India once, and they were not serving liquor. Nowadays it's become a fashion in India also. They're not serving liquor. So I was wondering now what's going to happen here. What about those guys who can't do without it? I saw some of them disappearing outside the hall and coming back. And every time they came back, they had a bigger smile on their face, like ear to ear. And I was thinking, what's going on? So I went outside, and they had a car which had a boot open, and there were bottles and glasses and everything. So it's a bar in the car. In Hindi it's called karo bar. Office. So you need to change your lifestyle a bit before you go and sit and meditate. It's not possible to sit and meditate. You need to. Okay. So the yama and niyama are rules and regulations. Believe me, if you really know how to drink the inner spirit, you don't need the one in the bottle. Gives much more ecstasy. One needs to tune into that. All human beings need some diversion. I can understand. What happens in alcohol? The central nervous system is paralyzed, so you feel nice. But we are saying it can be calmed down. You don't have to paralyze it. There are ways and means of doing it. And then you enjoy. Everybody needs enjoyment. No question. So we are offering some other kind of... Can I tell you a small story? You must have heard of Swami Vivekananda. I think many people have heard of him. He was a great yogi who I think was the first man who came to the West and preached the teachings of Vedanta and yoga. But few people know about his guru, who was a simple, unlettered village priest in a temple called Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. It was from him that Vivekananda got everything that he had, though he was an educated man. And the story I'm telling you because we were talking about intoxication. So, Ramakrishna was always intoxicated, not with alcohol, something else inside. So the story is, at once, he was going in a horse cart, in a buggy, along the streets of Calcutta. When he saw on the footpath, on the pavement, there was a guy who was fully drunk, and weaving his way across, So he said, stop. So they stopped and he got out and he went to the footpath and embraced him and said, hey, we are brothers. Hey, you are drunk, I am also drunk. So this guy really thought he must be an alcoholic. No, you are drunk, I am also drunk. So he wouldn't let go of him. Both of them were reeling around the footpath. So then with great difficulty they pulled him out and put him back in the buggy and took him home. So that's not the end of the story. Then many years later Swami Vivekananda went abroad, got dollars and pounds and built the headquarters called the Velumat, which is still there in Calcutta. And one day he was coming out of the shrine when he saw a tall man with matted hair, dreadlocks, very impressive looking man, personality, standing there and inside the Sanctum Sanctorum, there was a picture of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Now there is an image. Those days there was only a photograph. So when he saw him come out, he asked him, "Hey, you see that picture inside?" He said, "Yes." "Can I go hug that picture?" Swamiji said, "No, nobody is allowed to go into the Sanctum Sanctorum." Well, he said, "Why?" "Oh, you may not remember." He says, "Before your time. One day I was so drunk, I was an alcoholic. I was walking on the footpath and I was reeling, and then a buggy stopped, a horse cart, and somebody came out. The same guy, you see that, the picture? He came out and then he hugged me. And he said, "We are brothers. You're drunk, I am also drunk." And then with great difficulty they pulled him away. I don't know who was with him. Then he said, "Then what happened?" "Then that's the end of it. I have not touched a drop after that. But I am always in ecstasy, I am intoxicated, I don't know, and I enjoy it. I have become a yogi now. I enjoy this intoxication. I don't need anything. I don't need a chemical, I don't need any external supply. And the thing is, I don't have hangovers." He didn't say that, I am telling you. So, he said, "This is why I came." Somebody told me that there's a that he lives here. Swamiji said he doesn't live here anymore. He's gone. But this is his picture, all right. So he said, "Can I hug it?" So Swamiji said, "Sure. Go in and hug the picture." And he went back. Okay. So here are the rules and regulations according to Patanjali. The Yama Niyamas. A few we can mention, you don't have to go into details. The rules and regulations by which one has to live so that one can also meditate. You can't do them separately. They have to be there. And these are, one, simple living. Now, simple living can be very relative to different people. If you go out into the Himalayan ranges, simple living means living in a small cave or anything. But when you come out to the city, simple living may be that you live in a small house. I mean, that's okay. So, but simple living means not make it too complicated. If it becomes too complicated, your mind cannot settle down. Even when you sit to meditate, you are wondering if somebody is going to break through the back door. Keep it as simple as you can. It's very relative. Don't copy somebody else. Don't say, "I'm a yogi," and then strip yourself and walk around with a cowpea when you're in a city. Adjust. It's very important. So, simple living. Second is ahimsa. Now this is a very important word, non-violence. Ahimsa. Ahimsa, it means the attitude of not wanting to hurt others, not just physical. There are some people who are never happy. At least once a day they make somebody unhappy. I mean, there are beings, I'm telling you. So, can we live saying, "Let me make people as happy as I can. At least, I don't want to give money to somebody, but let me not frown. At least I can smile," right? So, non-violence is the attitude of not wanting to hurt others. Not wanting to, sometimes hurting somebody's mind is worse than giving a slap, physical slap. A slap doesn't last long, but this lasts. Especially if a person thinks he's very intelligent and you say, "No, you're an idiot." I mean, it's terrible. You can't sleep the whole day because I thought I was great, and somebody says you're not. So, this is our life. Now, to live in such a way that you don't cause injury to others as much as you can. Don't take it to extremes, but as much as you can to start with. So, simple living, not causing injury. Then there are a couple of things which nowadays are very difficult to practice, which is non-acceptance of gifts. Now this whole world revolves around gifts. You buy things, you get free gifts. You meet somebody, you give a gift. Now the idea is not that you're not supposed to receive a gift. It's simply that then your relationship becomes dependent on the gift. Especially for a yogi. Suppose I'm a let's say, I'm not, but suppose I'm a guru. Suppose. I don't want that terrible thing on my head, but suppose I'm a guru. And then somebody comes to me and says, we have come to see you, and carries a packet. Okay? They go and I open it, it's full of dollars, suppose. Now what happens? Next time I see that person, I expect another packet. Because we are human beings, right? Or, the other day I went to we had a talk in the United States, in the Bay Area, and the organizers asked, so the first row, how much do you charge? And the second row, how much do you charge? And the last row, how much do you charge? I said, we don't charge anything. But he said, all the gurus do, so what's wrong with you? So, then you expect. And then if somebody comes without it, you don't give any attention. You want to please the other guy because he is the one who is helping you to build the ashram. This is the reason why it was said, don't accept gifts. Not that you can't live in this world without it. I mean, somewhere people are happy, they give you a flower, don't throw it. I don't accept. This is not the way to do it. There are ways and means to live on this earth, gently. Then there is this wonderful thing called Brahmacharya, which has been mentioned. Now, Brahmacharya should not be mistaken for complete celibacy or something like that. The word Brahmacharya means that all the practices, charyas, which lead you to the Supreme Brahman, which is the reality. This is the meaning of Brahman. Of course, the human being utilizes the maximum energy in the sexual act. Right, I agree with that. So therefore some control is required, because you can utilize this energy for other purposes, higher purposes. So some kind of control is essential. Understand that. But to suddenly put a stop to everything, one might end up as a psychological wreck. So one has to go at it very carefully. But actually it means conserving energies and not wasting them, and that the mind doesn't run away with you, that you control your mind. Or rather, that the senses don't run away with you, but the mind controls the senses. That much is required. Like animals have no control. We have. Because they have no control, it's built into the system that in certain seasons they breed. We are all season beings. So we need to exercise some kind of control over this. So if you don't have that control, how are we going to sit and meditate and control the mind? So it's important. But it's not, don't carry it to the extreme and say, now I am. I remember an incident. During the last period of not my life, his life, when he was 90 years old or so, I was for 2-3 years very closely associated with J. Krishnamurti. So one day I was in Banaras and somebody came to see him, a very old, important Gandhian, one of those, and he went to see him. He spent an hour there, and then he came out, and then I went in to see how he was doing. So I went in and I found him walking up and down kind of restlessly. I said, sir, what happened? He said, do you know this chap who came just now? I don't remember his name. I said, he was 90 and gone a little sin. I said, I don't know his name, but he's some kind of a Gandhian guy. He said, yeah, whatever. I said, so what happened? He said, I felt like turning him around and kicking him on the bum. I said, but why, sir? He said, this guy tells me he's married for 50 years and he has not touched his wife. What kind of an animal is he? You understand what I'm trying to convey? So, these things need a little bit of understanding before people say Brahmacharya. All actions that lead to the truth are Brahmacharya. Not only this. But we need to conserve energies, understood. We don't need to waste. And we should see that our senses are under our control and that we are not under their control. Yes, this much.